we're just humans helping humans, and real estate happens to be the vehicle. And when I read that, I was like, man, that resonates with me. So how can I show more of that? Because I think one of the things I struggle with is that I care so much going through a transaction. It's like I genuinely care about the person on the other side. I don't want to see them, make any big mistakes or, truly just be stressed over this whole process. So it's like, how can I show that, that I care, that I'm a human helping humans? And that's where more of those client testimonies and talking about their experience and everything kind of started fitting into sharing that on the page. Because it's like, okay, I can say, oh, I'm a great guy, I want to help out, this and that. But I think having someone share their experience and talking about it definitely helps build that credibility. It was something I knew I wanted to incorporate more of because I wanted to show who I am as a human helping humans.
You're telling me thousands of dollars a month.
So how long have you been with KW for?
Oh, I've been with KW since January, like late January 2023.
Okay. Were you practicing before that, or was that your first?
Yeah, I was practicing before that. I started out as an apartment locator. Okay. So I've been licensed 8 years. It's actually time for me to renew my license for like the fourth time. But I got licensed back in 2017. Started out just apartment locating because I was with Smart City Apartment Locating at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Man, it was the Wild West back then. They were truly just a startup. Like I was, I think, agent number 24 that they'd ever have. And I think they have over 100 agents now. Yeah. So it was cool getting to be on the ground floor of that. But started out apartment locating, went to another agency that was still a bit more apartment locating centered, but I was able to do residential. So when clients were like, hey, I think we're ready to buy our first house, I'm like, oh, sweet, I can help with that instead of referring out.
Yeah.
But just got to a point where, I had never heard of a CRM because I was at an apartment locating agency. Yeah. So a lot of the support that I needed for the residential side, it just made sense for me to grow into somewhere where residential was the primary thing and locating could be secondary. So I still very much have that leg of my business. And I went and did Bold. Dusty Oglesby was the coach. Yeah. Changed my life. Yeah. Kelly Can was my team lead for Bold. And I said, man, there's something to this KW and particularly this DPR office because that was when most of DPR was taking it all at the same time. Man, Bold graduated in December and then started the conversations with Teresa, joined KW, and haven't looked back since.
Wow. So talk about what Bold is.
Yeah. So it is, oh man, it's boot camp for realtors. Like it's intense, but it's awesome. So it stands for Business Objective Life by Design. Because everybody thinks, you get into real estate and it's all about the freedom and you're going to have so much free time. Not at all.
Yeah. Right.
You are free to work on everybody else's time.
Correct.
So Bold is all about getting clear on your vision, what you're passionate about, the business that you want to have a few years from now, what the long-term goal is. And during that time, you have to make 100 contacts a week. You have to have 100 two-way conversations a week. And it's tough, man. But your business grows because you're forced to get out of your comfort zone. And the deals come, as you know, when you're talking with people.
Right.
When you're fostering and building and nurturing relationships, that's where the business happens. It doesn't happen at home watching Netflix. Mm-hmm. So
so are you from Dallas?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I grew up all over the Southeast, Florida, Georgia, Texas, Arkansas, Oklahoma. But I was born in Rowlett. Spent very little time there before we moved to Arkansas, but I graduated high school in Oklahoma and graduated from OU before moving back here.
Okay.
So I spent like the first, 22 years of my life moving other places before I got back to Dallas.
Is your family still in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're just, hop, skip, and a jump away. I was actually just up there last weekend because my grandparents were visiting my parents. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna get up there real quick.
Gotcha. So, okay. What year did you graduate?
I graduated 2016.
Oh, so okay. So I was a Baylor grad 2017.
Oh, nice.
So
all right.
Yeah, back at the old Big 12 days now.
Yeah, shoot, Oklahoma's SEC now. Yeah. I'm the worst football fan ever, dude.
Really?
I've married the biggest Cowboys fan in the world. So I always watch the Cowboys games with my wife. She's the type, she screams at the TV. I'm just here for the food, drinks, and hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, Saturdays I'm usually out on showings and stuff. So people are like, oh, I couldn't even tell you who OU's quarterback is. I'm
Yeah.
the worst because I'm like, man, I'm probably out on showings while the game's going on anyway.
Yeah. Wow. So you started off, you were apartment locating with the company, and you just said, hey, why don't I pursue getting my license? Because were a lot of those people that had worked with you then purchasing after that?
Yeah. So, and actually, that's still a good portion of my business.
Really?
Yeah. So, it was one of those, you have to be licensed to apartment locate anyway. But what's funny is while I was going through the classes with apartment locating, you're not doing any contracts or negotiating or anything. That's all the contracts and stuff are determined by the management companies.
Right.
So I kind of went through it all and it was like, okay, I just need to pass the test and then I can forget it all.
Mm-hmm.
Then as I got into residential, I was like, oh shoot, I'm learning by fire now. There's
Yeah.
there's all that information that I kind of tucked away.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it just, started getting to where I was like, man, I'm referring a lot of people out. And these are clients that I've helped find 3-4 apartments over the years and have a true relationship with. We've got that trust built. So it seemed like the next kind of gradual step to grow with my clients as they're getting to home buying age and family starting age. I was like, man, we've already got that relationship as me being a real estate resource for them. Why can't I help them with the next phase?
Right. So how are you? What's the best way that you're? Like, how do people know that you're currently doing that? What are you? Do you advertise for that, or is it just word of mouth?
That's a good question. So bit of both. I'd say, on my social media, I primarily focus on just showing that I do residential buying, selling. Don't necessarily advertise the apartment leg of my business, but it's very much still past clients, referrals that I do there. So
Yeah.
I still do that. That's a good portion of my business. But a lot of it's just been staying in touch over the years. Like I have some clients, they closed last October. And it was funny, man, because there were sometimes he'd go without responding to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd text him, hey man, got it in my notes that your lease is probably coming up. Do you need some help looking around? Some years it was crickets. Other years, oh yeah, I'm good. Or no, actually I might need your help. And then last year he was just like, man, you've always been my real estate guy, whether I respond or not. Like I'm ready to buy a house.
Wow, that was what, 3 or 4 years ago?
Shoot, man, I think we found his first place in 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
But that goes to show how important consistency is.
Yeah.
Because so one of the things you learn at Bold is 100 genuine. So not Facebook likes, not comments. It was like genuine.
It's got to be two-way messages or face-to-face, voice-to-voice.
Do you still do that today? Is it 100 a month?
Yeah, so it's not quite as intense because what will happen, I found, when you try to do a ton of volume. So my coach holds me accountable to 150 contact attempts. So it can be a message nobody responds to, right? But the point is trying to get in front of fostering relationships in front of people. What I have to catch myself with is if the goal is too lofty, like if it's 100 contacts a week kind of thing, it can easily turn into just checking a box. It's like
Transactional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, hey man, what's up? How you been? Oh, good. Awesome, man. Love to hear that. And it's like, sweet, that was number 99. I need to go get one more. And it loses the genuineness of what I'm really about and what I hope my clients feel whenever we talk. Because I'm not just going to be like, hey, do you know anybody that needs to sell or anything? I'm like, man, what's going on? Last time we talked, you were up for this promotion. Like, I like the true relationship.
Yeah.
Is what it's all about for me. So I try not to get too caught up in the just checking a box of, sweet, that was a contact that was made, because it's so much more than that. There's a person on the other side.
Right, for sure. So what has been, because if you look at your social media, I mean, you're obviously successful in real estate. You do a good job, and you're active on social media, which we'll talk about. But what's been the biggest? What would you say has been the best form of lead generation from a real estate standpoint?
Oh, that's tough, man. I would say for me, truthfully, it's been, really just staying in touch, building relationships with my past clients and apartment clients, because that's where the primary bulk of my business comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So that work a lot of referrals. They'll say, hey, I'm not buying, but I've got this friend that's thinking about buying. Can I pass your info? Absolutely, pimp me out, man. Would love to help them. Social media helps in the sense that it's kind of like it's like a digital resume, and
Yeah.
I think Teresa calls it like it's your digital reputation. So that certainly helps with starting conversations. So what I try to do is instead of just posting content, I try to do a little bit more connection as well. So, I'm a CrossFit kind of guy, so I'll follow other gyms and follow people who seem like they've got similar interests. So I use Instagram as kind of a way to build relationships with people that I have common ground with. But it's not one of I hope one day it turns into people reaching out, hey, we're ready to move. That is certainly the goal. But right now it's very much fostering relationships, just meeting other cool people in Dallas that like me, like cars or like working out.
Yeah.
So and then if we're vibing, messaging, then it's like, man, let's meet in real life. I know it sounds kind of like a dating app or something, but
yeah.
one of my good friends I actually met through Instagram. He had a Ducati and is a big car guy, and I was like, dude, I've had 3 motorcycles. I love cars.
Yeah.
And we were like, man, let's meet up for a beer. Instantly became good friends, and now we still hang out all the time. So, and had him over while I was having some boys over watching the football game, and now he hangs out with some of my other friends. Like it's cool. It's just being a connector. And I'm, man, this all started from Instagram.
It did,
and that's really fulfilling, being able to just meet people and because it's always just, it feels like such a highlight reel. So when you get real connection, that's awesome.
Well, it is. I think, what I've started to do is I'll use Instagram as, like you said, actually, it's a resume or a business card. So on my listing signs, I actually have my QR code for my Instagram, because what I want is I want people to scan, and on my Instagram, I've got all my information, contact through Linktree, and then you can see my past work. You can see listings, you can see buyer testimonials, all that stuff. So like,
absolutely,
what better way if somebody sees your listing and they want to get a hold of you to scan your QR code and see everything you've done? I mean, to me, that works better than Google reviews, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're both good, but they can see the videos that you create, like the POV and the fancy walkthroughs and all that stuff. So I think that social media, the other thing with social is you have the ability to meet anybody through it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I reached out to you via social media.
Yeah, that was all on Instagram.
And Travis, who was on before, social media. So it's just a great way to connect, and I think everybody should be working towards that. So what? So okay, you get referrals. So what else? What are your current goals for 2025? What are you working towards right now?
Oh, so one that I'm working towards is, being that I have a lot of clients that are renting apartments and are gradually moving towards buying their first homes. My coach likes to use the term, I'm listing light in my business. So I work a lot of buyers. So a focus is, really pumping up the listing side of my business, which has been great because as a result, one of the bold laws is what you focus on expands. And it's great. I've got listings going live right now, which is great. It allows me to kind of show, especially when people see my Instagram, like, oh, he doesn't just work buyers. He's got listings too.
Right.
Because it's like, I absolutely know how to do that. A lot of my business is first time buyers. So focusing on leveraging listings more, and then also creating more consistency and predictability in my business, because word of mouth referrals and past clients, it's amazing having that because it's truly relationship driven, but it can be hard to predict. It's not necessarily like, okay, I know for sure I'm going to get enough referrals this month where I'll be hitting my business goals. It's a little bit more sporadic. So just creating a little bit more consistency around my business is the big goal for 2025.
So for somebody who's listening to this and they'd say, okay, actually, it's interesting how every guest I've had on here in real estate they've done something different, but they've done it consistently. So this is the first conversation I've had about how somebody's really built their business off of leases, and then just from there grown it. But you could say, all right, I've got a lot of leases that turn into buyers, first time home buyers, like you said. So how is what's worked to build up the listing side of your business? How have you been able to do that? Because I think for a lot of new agents or people that might be listening to this and want to get in, the listing component of it is the hardest part to break into. Because
Well, yeah, because I mean, of course, we had all the industry changes last year and stuff, but on the listing side, kind of like I mentioned, I think before we even started recording, is selling a home is more operational. It's like, hey, we gotta, we have to do all these things to get ready. You've got to be showing ready. It's a bit more of a quote unquote headache versus buying a home is aspirational. It's like, man,
I like that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that's the beach body we're working towards.
Right.
Whereas the listing is, these are the workouts and the hard dieting.
Yeah, I like the way. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's a little bit harder to break into too because they are paying you to sell your home. Whereas on the buy side, it changes a little bit in the sense that hey, for my compensation, we can build it into the offer if we want to ask for them to pay for it. But on the listing side, you are interviewing for a paid job. They are paying you to get their home sold. So what I started doing on my social media, my digital resume, right, was I shifted more of my messaging to sellers. Because I realized, okay, your vibe attracts your tribe. And really, Teresa told me this too. She said, if you market to buyers, you'll get buyers. If you market to sellers and listings, you'll get listings and you'll get buyers. And that was an aha moment for me because being in the trenches with buyers all the time, I was like, oh, I can absolutely share about this piece of the process. Like I'm in this day to day, but then realized, wait a second, if somebody looks at my profile, my digital, my digital resume, are they seeing the proof that I can work listings, that I do listings? And so I had to take a step back and say, oh man, this is something I need to shift my focus. So it was just a shift in messaging and, the tidbits and the tips that I would share on social media that kind of helped me more so showcase, hey, I do have this skill set. I very much can do this. So that helped a ton.
And I think the thing with social is, in a way, it's a digital database as well. It's not your CRM, but you have a certain amount of followers. And if you post consistently, they're seeing your content consistently.
Yeah.
Right. And so, some of the old school farming methods talk about how, you should send mailers out X amount of times per week, or you should contact your A or B list in your database, however many times. Well, with social, you got an intimate people that have selected to follow you, and posting consistently on that is showing them it's just growing that mind share, right? Because mind share is, everybody thinks, you know this, but most people think of one realtor or real estate professional that consumes 90% of their mind share. And then there's a secondary one that's 10%. But the stats say that's really it. So when people are thinking about who do they know as a realtor, it's really one or two people. And so that's where, like, when you consistently post on social, and again, I'm telling you things, it's just
absolutely.
But it becomes your growing mind share, not only through the people that know you, but it's outside of your database. And so there's obviously some crossover, but I like what you said about, showings or listings are operational. They can be, and buyers are aspirational.
Yeah.
That's really, like, that resonated with me because when you do have to kind of change the way you frame your message around that. Like, they're two very different things.
Yeah, and there's different pain points.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's different pain points, objections, objectives, etc.
100%.
So what did you do specifically to start changing that message on your Instagram or Facebook or whatever?
Yeah, well, I do a lot of reels on. Well, it's nice because you can post at the same time, right? You can have it go Instagram and Facebook at the same time. It was more so just diving into, okay, so I've got who my ideal client is, right? In that avatar, and I know who that is as a buyer. Let me dive into a little bit more on who that person is as a seller, and then what might they be battling with? Or if they're thinking about selling, what's on their mind right now? And speak to that. So that helped me shift my messaging and my focus and trying to speak to exactly to that person, what phase they might be in as far as, do we want to move? Do we really need more space? And that way on that hook or that video where they're like, wait a second, that's me. So shifted more to, okay, I know who my ideal buyer is, who's my ideal seller, how can I speak to them?
Got it. So do you have any, I know a lot of your businesses, past clients and referrals and word of mouth. Do you have any system for, are you doing any other form of advertising? Like, do you do some of the old school methods at all?
Yes and no. I tried calling FSBOs and expireds for a while, and the funniest thing, man, I'd practice, I would role play, I would get myself amped up, ready to go, and I'd tried it for 3 months straight, couldn't get a single person on the phone. And I don't know if it was maybe I needed to call several times a day or what, but typically by 9 a.m., I'd get somebody on the phone that was pissed because their phone has been ringing off the hook, and they would say, "You are the 100th person to call me." And I'm like, it is 9:02 a.m. Dang, people start early. So it wasn't that my messaging wasn't good. It's just I couldn't get a hold of anybody. So I've been really kind of diving in with my coach on, okay, I know I love video and I feel comfortable doing things in front of the camera. How can I leverage that a bit more? Mm-hmm. So I think that is going to turn more into, maybe some YouTube ads or advertising on Instagram and kind of putting some money behind what I'm already focusing on and enjoy, but helping bring it to a broader audience. So that's something that we're working on leveraging more there. I still, open houses and things, they can be really rewarding. I've actually got some buyers that I met at an open house, but then I've also definitely had my fair share where nobody comes. Yeah. I feel like the Sum 41 song, like, crash my own house party because nobody came.
Right.
So I would say, that's the database working is probably the most traditional big thing that I do. But I think I'm going to start leveraging more video advertising. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the expired listings, the for sale by owners, those, I think that, I've talked to so many people who do different things and they do it consistently. Like, I don't know if have you met Brad Johnson at the office?
Yeah.
I mean, that's his specialty.
Yeah.
Those type of it, but he does it so consistently and it works for him. But then I'm not good. That's not the route I want to go, which is the expired listings. I just, my thing is how do you do something consistently if you just don't enjoy it or you're miserable at it?
Yeah, there has to be some kind of enjoyment there in order to make it worth doing.
Yeah,
because it's like there's multiple. I kind of relate a lot of things back to exercise and sports and things, but it's like, man, if you hate just traditional weightlifting, then you can still achieve the same fitness goals doing something you enjoy a little bit more. Like if you're not a marathon runner, well, you might be a crazy person if you love sprinting, but maybe sprints are your thing, right? So there's multiple ways to get the job done without just focusing on something that you hate. Because if you hate it, you're more than likely not going to do it, and your business isn't going to grow.
So you said you do CrossFit?
Yeah, I can't truly call us CrossFit. We're not affiliated anymore, but go to kind of a functional training gym. So we still do a lot of like echo bike, rowing machine, snatches, things like that.
You have to be affiliated with CrossFit to call
yourself? So you have to pay. Yeah, you have to pay like an affiliate fee to be able to call yourself a CrossFit gym. And we've kind of strayed away from that, or at least the ownership of our gym has, and we still pull a lot of our methodology and our thinking from it, but we'll still have days where he's programmed some bicep curls. Like we kind of mix in some functional bodybuilding with the functional training. Fun.
Yeah, easy enough.
Yes, sir.
Cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And again, it's like I could tell you, Ben Baker, who I've had on. Do you know Ben?
Yeah, absolutely. Ben is a mentor of mine.
Yeah. So old school farming, neighborhood farming, paper
Mhm.
advertisement, mailers, door hangers. Then um, you have like Elizabeth, and I had a realtor named Haley. They're so big on networking, and
Mhm.
I mean they get involved, and they built their business that way. And hearing you through your beginnings was with leasing and like how that turned into clients, and
Yeah.
it's just like, and then I'm trying to think. I had there was, I forget who, but everybody that I've talked to has done something different. It's like
Mhm.
with me, I specialize in investing, so
Yeah.
a lot of the content I produce on Instagram, because when I originally started, um, I was an investor, so I didn't have my license. I was doing Airbnbs, I was doing flipping, I was doing rental properties, and I was like really passionate about that, and I was trying to
Yeah.
teach people how to do it. And but what was happening was is I was working with a lot of agents that just didn't get it. It was like I was being referred to people, but they weren't investors themselves, and so they weren't
Mhm.
really teaching me anything. All they were doing was opening doors,
Yeah, they were like, "Oh yeah, I could take you to go look at that one."
and so I
Yeah.
was having to do all. So eventually, I was like, I'm just gonna get my license and do this myself. And then
Yeah.
through that, people started reaching out about, hey, can you actually just sell me a home? And so, but through the content I was posting about investing and Airbnbs, I kind of got this brand of being an investor.
Yeah.
So it was really hard for me to then change that to I'm also a realtor.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to flip, and I'm dealing with that now with the podcast because I've got a lot of podcast content. And so now my page is kind of turned into this, well, hold up, is he running a podcast? So I ended up I have two separate pages now
Yeah.
where my main page is a mix of investing and realtor work. And
Yeah.
then I have a separate podcast page where that's just podcast videos. And that's going to be like the stuff we've talked about today. But it's like, you have to be, I mean, hearing you talk about buyer, like what you're posting is what you're building your brand on.
Yeah.
And so like when you said that, I was like, you know what? That's exactly the struggle I'm dealing with now.
Yeah, I mean it's tough because and I think it takes a little bit of time because as they start to consistently see the other types of content too, that'll help build you more in kind of incorporating that messaging and that piece of the business into what clients start to or people see in your page. Oh, okay, he does this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, and then too, just keeping the Instagram page. I mean, my business kind of got flipped on its head last year after I read that book that I told Travis about, The Full Fee Agent. And the whole premise is basically, Travis about the full fee agent. And the whole premise is basically, we're just humans helping humans, and real estate happens to be the vehicle. And when I read that, I was like, man, that resonates with me. So how can I show more of that? Because I think one of the things I struggle with is that I care so much going through a transaction. It's like I genuinely care about the person on the other side. I don't want to see them, make any big mistakes or, truly just be stressed over this whole process. So it's like how can I show that, that I care, that I'm a human helping humans, and that's where more of those client testimonies and talking about their experience and everything kind of started fitting into sharing that on the page. Because it's like, okay, I can say, oh, I'm a great guy, I want to help out, this and
Mm-hmm.
that. But I think having someone share their experience and talking about it definitely helps build that. Having someone share their experience and talking about it definitely helps build that credibility. It was something I knew I wanted to incorporate more of because I wanted to show who I am as a human helping humans.
What's the premise of that book, or what's the theme of it? Is it pretty much just talking about?
Man, there's so many good nuggets that I've adopted into my business. One actually, and this is very much more agent facing content,
Yeah.
but um, is that, no more free consulting. And what that means is like my last two listings that I've got going live, I had the listing agreement signed before I ever ran comps. And I know that
Really?
sounds super counterintuitive. But and this book is about that too, because you could spend hours as an agent prepping for this listing appointment. You go knock it out of the park. They call you the next day. Hey, we've gotten someone else, and you've lost all that time.
Have you actually been burned by that before?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Really?
And it's not. This is in the book too. It's not a crime to lose business. It's a crime to not lose business quickly. So if you can find out that that person's probably not going to work with you early on, you save yourself a ton of headache. They get to go on down the road. So a lot of it is building trust. Like, for example, you know, let's say there's a seller considering working with both of us, right? And they don't know us from Adam.
Yeah.
They can see your page, they can see my page. They can't know for sure who they're going to net more money working with, other than they have to take us on our word of, hey, it'll be a great experience working with me. So really the biggest differentiating factor that you have is the trust that you build with them. And you do that, I'm giving you like the whole book right now.
No,
But you do that
it.
with tactical empathy. So there's some language things like it's, mirrors, labels, silence is a big one. But when I chat with somebody before having a true like listing appointment, is really understanding their situation. So if they say, oh, we need to move by the summer, then a mirror would be summer, and then they'll unpack that a little bit for you. And then labeling what you're hearing. So it sounds like this could be an emotional decision for you, and have them unpack that. And as you're building this trust, if they feel understood, because the biggest thing is, how did you make them feel, and did they feel understood? Because they're going to trust somebody that they know has their back throughout the process because you understand them. It's not about yelling at them. They've got a price in mind on the other side of the street, and you're yelling at them, no, you're wrong, I've got the comps, I'm the professional. It's going over there, seeing it from their perspective, and then walking hand in hand to the other side of the street instead of dragging them kicking and screaming.
So how would you, like I had a call last week, and she was referred by the golf course lady I was telling you about. It's going up in May. But like even that one, I don't have a listing agreement for yet. I've always just kind of, maybe I probably need to, maybe I trust people too much. So I think people are ethical. They're not going to waste your time. I haven't been burned by it yet, but I know eventually it's going to happen. But anyway, she referred this lady who has 2 listings, and she was reaching out to me, and what would you say to her like before? Because she was like, yeah, and she was transparent. She said, I'm talking to agents.
Yeah.
And she goes, I would like to see what you think you could sell for, and if you could run some comps and send me over some work you've done before. So based on what this book says, if you wouldn't give comps before having a listing agreement, what would you say?
Yeah. So, and it's not going to work for everyone, right? Because I met with a lady who, she very much wanted to know kind of how my brain worked and what the comps would be. And after our conversation, she said, hey, I think I'm still going to explore other agents. I'm, hey, not a problem. I wish you nothing but the best, and my door's always open should you change your mind. But I didn't lose any time running comps for her. So the big thing I would dive into, and based on this book, I can't claim this as my own.
Right.
But
right.
talking with that person and saying, what are you looking for in an agent, and making sure you fit the profile. Or how'd you pick your agent last time? And also asking things like, I'm curious, if you had a great experience with that agent before, why not hire them this time?
Great point. You're right, because they clearly had an agent because they had 2 homes.
Yeah. And so getting to, who's helping you make this decision. So really asking these questions to understand their mindset around how they're going to be picking their agent. And sometimes, like I had a guy, he called me, it's actually my condo listing that I've got. And, price was a big thing for him. And I said, is price going to be the primary factor for who you decide to work with? And then he said, well, actually, no. I said, okay, what are you primarily basing it on? And we got to unpack that a little bit more, but kind of calling out the elephant in the room, where it seems like if you're in a bidding war to buy the listing, kind of calling that out and just saying, no, is price the primary factor that you're shopping around on, or what's important to you in an agent, and really understanding their motivation and building trust through that. Because then you can know pretty quickly if some red flags might be, I even address pricing. I'm like, I'm sure you have a specific price in mind. So that's a label right there. And then see if they respond. And, would you mind sharing that with me? And if they don't, or they're like, hey, that's why I called you, that's a red flag. That means, okay, you're either the favorite or the fool. And if they're defaulting to, well, you're the professional, that's why I called you, you really don't have a lot of trust there. You might be the fool. You might be the agent they're interviewing just to confirm that this other agent is the one they want to go with. And they're not even doing that maliciously. They just feel like they need to do the research. So asking questions like, how did you pick your agent last time? Who's helping you make this decision can help you determine whether or not you're the, hey, come list me, or the, hey, we're interviewing agents call. Because you want to focus on the, hey, come list me calls, because that's really what your business is built around. That's the 80% probability of getting them to sign.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then even I know I'm throwing a lot at you right now, telling you this book is life-changing.
Curious, yeah.
Also, if I feel like we're having a really good conversation, I even tell people in kind of the initial consult, we've got a good thing going. It seems like things are going well. I'll say, hey, this might be where I throw a wrench in things. I feel like we've got a good thing going, but would you be opposed to me sharing reasons you may not want to work with me? Right? So, and that sounds opposite of what we're taught as agents. It's supposed to be make them want to work with you, right? How do you get the business? But I let them know what my non-negotiables are. So, for example, it might be, I'm a full fee, full service agent. I charge X% on the buy side. I charge X% on the list side. You're never going to need me and not get me, but you're also not going to need me at 11 p.m. So my phone's usually turning off about 7 p.m. so I can spend time with my wife. If you want to tour on Sundays, I just need at least a 48-hour notice, because we do church and lunch on Sunday. And those are kind of my days with my wife. And then let them know, I don't show a home without a signed buyer representation agreement or a pre-approval letter so that we're set up for success. And if they have any issues with those, we've gotten them out now, right? And found out maybe we're not going to be a fit. Like if they want an agent that they know is going to be grinding till 4 a.m, has no kids, no wife, nobody to have to split their time with, and wants a grind culture agent, I'm not their guy. But it's better we find that out in the initial consultation.
Yeah.
So the reasons someone might not want to work with you are more important than the reasons they may want to.
Yep. How is the and that's great. Have you been dealing with the buyer representation agreement when showing homes?
Yeah.
Are you using the temporary one a lot, or are you?
No. So I think the way that I address it is, especially with working with a lot of my first-time home buyers, right, is they don't know a ton about the process. So part of my initial conversation with them is understanding, what's important to them in an agent. Tell me about this dream, because the home ownership is the goal, right? So making sure I have a good understanding of what they're looking for, what's important to them, what are their concerns about the process, because it's a pretty daunting sounding process. And so I take those concerns, and then I can get through it in about 15, 20 minutes, but just walking them through the process, point A to point B. And then there's opportunities to kind of demonstrate a little bit of value in each piece. Like I tell all my buyers, when we go into a home, like you look for all the good and I'll look for the ugly. If I see things that could be red flags that could come up on the inspection report, like if you tell me you love this home, inspector hat's going on, and we're going to try to find the crawl space so we know if those poo pipes are PVC or not.
Yeah.
Right. So it kind of builds trust where they're like, oh man, because one of their concerns may have been buying the wrong home or buying a home with issues. So we talk about the compensation piece, and I ask them, hey, are you familiar with the lawsuits that happened last year? So really walking them through, hey, so there's 3 agreements that dictate the transaction: listing agreement, the buyer rep agreement, and of course the purchase agreement, and explaining how the compensation works and letting them know, my fee is X%. But you guys are in the driver's seat in the sense that if you want to cover that at closing, we have that option and we can make a more aggressive offer. If you want the seller to pay for that, then we can build that into our offer. And I have clients, and I tell them, I have a lot of clients that just tell me, hey, we're going to build this into the offer no matter what, because we don't want to have to pay that at closing. And we go in knowing the seller could counter and say, hey, at this price, we'll cover X% of your agent's fee. And I'm going to come back to you and say, hey guys, do we want to add more to the sales price, or are you comfortable covering this portion? But we have that agreement, we have that conversation before we ever start making offers. So they know, okay, well, we're hiring Blake to help us for this fee. whether the seller's paying that or not. And they know that I've got their back on how to dice it up.
And a lot of sellers agents don't seem to be messing with it much. I mean, have you experienced that yet?
Messing with it how?
Like what I mean by it still seems to be 3%. People are cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I haven't dealt with a seller yet that has countered my commission or has countered the price, and then it seems to be things still seem kind of to be the same even though they're not. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I think it varies on the seller situation. Because I've had some that are the net is very important to them, and they're in a position where there's not a ton of margin, and so we have countered, and I try to approach it because you also have to assume that not every agent is having the conversation with their buyers of like, hey, this is the fee. I feel like a lot of agents are like, well, we'll see what the seller's offering, and that doesn't set you up a lot for success,
Right?
Especially if they come back and say, well, hey, at this price, we're not doing any buyer agent compensation,
Right.
So I always try to focus more so on the net of, hey, at this price and with the 3% commission, we're still X under where the clients need to be. So that way they can do the math with their client on their side, and it's not like I'm just attacking that agent's commission.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. For the most part, it seems like it's kind of business as usual, but I think it takes setting expectations with the seller of like, hey, our listing agreement doesn't include cooperating compensation. We're going to look at that on an offer-to-offer basis, but we want to understand that more than likely every offer we get, they're going to be asking for their agent's full fee. And then just silence, like let them kind of think through it.
Yeah.
So it helps you build trust, and also, it's your agent is your guide. And if you had a friend, if I said, Wesley, we're going to go for a walk, man, meet me here at 11, and it ends up that walk is actually at a state park, and we're going to be hiking.
Yeah.
You're not going to be too happy with me because you didn't bring all the correct gear.
Right.
But if I said, hey, Wesley, we're going to go to the state park, man. We're going to hike. Bring a rain jacket. You may not need it. Go ahead and bring some snacks and some water. You came prepared because we acknowledged all the things that, like, hey, we might need this. We may not. And we're going to have that hike. And, man, you're going to be much happier with me knowing you didn't even need to use the rain jacket, but you had it, than if I just said, hey, we're going for a walk.
Yeah.
And it's going to be super easy.
Yeah. That's a good, you're good with the analogies, man.
Like we kind of mix in some functional bodybuilding with the functional training.
Yeah, I love it. Well, how can people find you? What if people want to find you? What's the best way?
Yeah, so I would say I'd love to connect on Instagram because it's like, man, I want to celebrate your wins. If I see something cool on the story, want to comment on it, get in touch. My handle is @Tinkle the Realtor. Because got to weigh on my last name since it's unique.
Yeah.
And us agents can be kind of a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
So @Tinkle the Realtor, that's probably going to be the primary way because I also have all my contact information and everything on there. I'm working on a website, but it's not published yet. But that'll just be tinklerealestate.com and be able to reach through there as well. But again, I would say right now primary would be Instagram is a great way for us to connect.
Cool. Well, I appreciate you coming on. It was good hearing about that and how you do certain things, and I've loved listening to stories like yourself, and I know that the people listening in will as well. So,
absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun.
Yeah, easy enough.
Yes, sir.
Cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.